This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Bill Shunn is back on the program. He's a writer, poet, storyteller, editor, programmer, and puzzle maker. We had Bill on the show back in 2015 when he wrote The Accidental Terrorist, Confessions of a Reluctant Missionary, which chronicles the true story of his service as a Mormon missionary and the events that led to his arrest and conviction on terrorism-related charges. If you want to hear that story, and it's a fascinating one, you can go into our Stuph File Program archives and find the whole story on show number 0328. This time around, we're going to talk about the last title in his hyphenated list, that of Puzzle Maker. Bill joins us via Skype from New York. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program with us. So, you are a puzzle maker, which is fun. As a matter of fact, one of the puzzles you make a puzzle called Tylogram. What is it that makes, in your estimation, a good word game?
In my estimation, a good word game is one that you can come back to multiple times and that challenges you to dig deeper than you might usually dig. Tylogram itself was inspired by the New York Times spelling bee puzzle, which allows people to make words from 7 letters and has a very limited number of words that are accepted. And what I always found frustrating about spelling bee, as much as I love it, is that it didn't accept a lot of the words that I knew were good words, but that the puzzle makers presumably didn't think most people would know. So that was one of my goals in making Tylogram, was to use an expanded word list so that people could, spend a period of hours or days coming back to the puzzle and finding more and more words that they might otherwise might not have been allowed in other puzzles.
Well, I'm so glad you say that because I play spelling bee every day. And one of the things I find quite frustrating about it is that sometimes they will allow 2 different spellings of the similar word. But I live in Canada, and they don't accept any of the British spellings, flavor, color, the OU, for instance. They don't allow any of those. I'm thinking, okay, how can they allow some things and not this?
Exactly. Well, Spelling Bee, since it's run by an American newspaper, follows American spelling conventions and really is not very friendly to people who might live in places in the British Commonwealth or the former states of the Commonwealth or other English-speaking countries around the world. That's one of the things I wanted to address with Tylogram also. We will allow all those different variant spellings, the OU spellings, the way that in British English you spell some words with an NCE instead of an NSE like you might in English, like offense or license. Words like that.
Yeah. And by the way, one of the things I found interesting about Tylogram is sometimes I just throw letters up and I'm going, oh, that's a word?
Yes. I use a computer to help me create the puzzle, and I've compiled a huge list of English words from various sources. And every time I go through and curate a Tylogram puzzle, and they are hand curated, I've gone through the list of every possible word that could be made with the letters and looked it up to determine whether or not it is a word, whether it's maybe a slightly naughty word or an offensive word in some country, so that I can really create a puzzle that's going to be fun for people all over the world without going too far and offending them.
Absolutely. Now, what does it take to create a game like this? I mean, where do you start?
That's a very good question. I had wanted to make a puzzle like Tylogram for a long time. Back in 2018, I became really fascinated with Spelling Bee when it debuted at the New York Times. And I did a lot of study of that puzzle to see what made it fun and what I enjoyed about it. And I thought that using 8 letters in a puzzle instead of 7 would open up some fun possibilities. At that point, it became just playing around to figure out what would be the best way to configure a grid of 8 letters that people could choose from. And finally, after a lot of thought, a lot of trial and error, I hit on the idea of using a sliding 8 puzzle format, which is like those puzzles with the numbers from 1 through 8, or a sliding 15, 1 through 15, where you slide the tiles and try to arrange the numbers in ascending order. So I had the idea finally to cross a sliding 8 puzzle with my word puzzle, and that was the real birth of Tylogram. But once I had the concept, of course, there's the necessity of turning it into a computer program. Fortunately, I've had a long background in programming, and I've been working in the web since 1995. So I set aside a few months and was able to create the puzzle and all the infrastructure that lets me build each semi-weekly puzzle behind the scenes.
Yeah, you have the puzzle out twice a week. I believe it's Tuesday and Friday, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. We do, what I try to do is do a shorter puzzle on Tuesday so that people can do it in 3 days during the work week. And usually a longer one, a little more difficult on Fridays, so you can work on it over the weekend. And I've heard from a lot of people that they'll work on it for a little while every day while the puzzle is available.
I'm one of those as well. And not only that, there's somebody that I play not against or with, but there's a friend of mine who lives in Ontario, and we commiserate back and forth, like, how many words are you up to? How many points are you up to? Have you gotten the secret word or whatever? And we keep egging each other on. You know?
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. One thing I wanted to do with this puzzle was not make a clear ending point for it, so you could continue working on it as much as you could. I suppose you could find all the words, but that would be almost impossible in most cases. For every puzzle, I set as a goal a certain number of points, and hopefully you'll get to that point and pass it. And I will reward you with various different titles like Master Wordsmith or Grand Lexicographer as you reach higher levels of points.
Well, I know for a fact that reaching that point of the points you have at the bottom there, I think I've reached it once. And there are times where I got to admit, I don't even get close.
Well, there are 2 stages to the Tylogram puzzle. One is just simply finding the words, and the other one, as you will have discovered playing the puzzle, is sliding the letters around in the grid to try to maximize your score, because that's the other aspect of Tylogram that I think makes it different from most other word puzzles.
That's the point that I keep trying to teach to my friend, the fact that you can slide them around. For instance, every once in a while, for instance, the letter that must be used in the Tylogram has a quotient of 0, so I immediately move that to a place which already has a 0.
Correct. Yes. Every square in the grid has a point value, and when you slide the tiles around and move it into place, that letter takes on the value of the square that it's in and updates your entire score. So yeah, you can slide the tiles around and your score will change dramatically depending on how you arrange them.
It is a great word game, and we're just about out of time, but I've got to ask you about your spelling bee solver, because first of all, how did you come up with the spelling bee solver, and how, if any way, did you get the newspaper to sign off on this? Because I'm assuming that you had to ask permission.
No, actually,
Really?
I did not have to ask permission. There's a tradition in the puzzle world, going back a long time, of people doing analysis of New York Times and other puzzles online. For instance, there are several crossword puzzle blogs that fully discuss the crossword every day and its answers and publish the answers. And as far as I know, the New York Times has never been bothered by that. So when I first started doing Spelling Bee Solver, all I really wanted to do was figure out how I could find all the answers in the puzzle and not wait until the next day. So I built a little program to help me do it. Eventually, I put it online and added more features, and it became more and more popular. And in fact, I've been interviewed by the New York Times about the Spelling Bee Solver.
Oh, so they are definitely aware of you.
They're very aware, yes.
and clearly have no problem with it.
I hope they don't have any problem with it at this point. It's been going for over 5 years, and we seem to all coexist peacefully.
Well, I'll let you know how I do the spelling bee. I try to do the spelling bee and get to the point where I reach genius on myself.
Yes.
And then I allow myself to use some of the hints that they have within their game. And then when I can't get any of them, I then go to yours and say, okay, what did I miss? And the reason why I do that is because, as you know, they're very repetitious in some cases of the words that they use. And every once in a while, I'll come up with a word and I'll go, oh, I never even knew that was a word. But now that I see it, when these letters come up again, I'll know that one.
Exactly. Yeah, there are a few words that just because of the letters in them or the repetition of the letters in them show up again and again. One of the stranger ones is maybe acacia.
Oh, thank you. That was yesterday's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shows up all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only got a C, an A, and an I.
I can spend hours playing your game, sometimes way too much time playing your game. So I'm going to make sure that everyone else out there knows it's Tylogram, and to go to the site, it's TYLOGR.am, correct?
That is correct.
Excellent.
Yes. And the word Tylogram is itself an 8-letter word that could be used in a Tylogram puzzle eventually, and probably will.
Now, do you have any opportunity or do you have any thoughts of, I know you only do it 2 times a week, and I know I certainly can't finish it, but do you ever have any thoughts of increasing the regularity of it?
I don't think so, unless I suddenly got a whole lot more free time, because each puzzle takes so long for me to create it. I'm not sure it would be feasible to do it more than twice a week, but what I do plan to do in the future is open up the archive of past puzzles to people who want to subscribe. It's one of those projects I have on the back burner that I'll get to one of these days. But so far we've done about 260 puzzles, and I would really love to be able to let people play old puzzles in addition to the current one.
That would be great, because I was late to the game. And I got to the game because I believe a mutual friend of ours, Michael Libling, put me onto it. And I was late to the game. And when I got to the game, I was then telling everybody else about the game. So there you go.
Well, thanks to you, and thanks to Mike for both of your evangelism on behalf of Tylogram.
And thank you very much for doing this and being on the program with us once again, Bill.
You're welcome, Peter. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Bill Shunn, puzzle maker behind the game Tylogram, and also the man behind the Spelling Bee Solver. Also, don't forget his novel, The Accidental Terrorist: Confessions of a Reluctant Missionary. You can go to my website at thestufffile.com, go to the What's On page for this show, which is show number 0745, and you'll find the links to William's site, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order his book directly.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.